Okay guys, today we're working on a 2006 Ford Taurus, and this is down at my friend Latour's Auto. The history of the vehicle is it just had an engine replaced and it won't start. So I tried helping him out over the phone and walked through a couple of tests. He confirmed that he has spark and that he hears the fuel pump running, and then I had him do the injector test with a test light and he said that he doesn't have injection pulse. So that's where we are with this vehicle. Let's jump to it, see if we can do this one quickly. Some standard preliminary stuff with Fords. Let's turn the key on, look for a check engine light. That's that bottom left corner. And then what we want to do is, if the engine computer is receiving a crank signal, when we crank it, that light will go out. And then we can also watch the tach, so watch it. Okay, so what that means, the tachometer moved and the crank sensor signal went out, and that confirms that we are receiving a crank sensor signal. The only other thing that we can do in here right now is to maybe look for some type of anti-theft light. I do not see one. Let's see if I can even find where it is. The theft light, okay, that bottom right corner, watch. There's a theft light right there. So as long as that light isn't staying lit when I'm cranking, or blinking at me when I'm cranking, that suggests it's not an anti-theft problem. Before we do any checks, we can also scan for codes, and I did, and as you can see, there are no fault codes in this system, just our P1000, which means the battery has been disconnected and all the monitors have not completed yet. So no real help there. Let's start with spark. All right, we're just going to do the test light test. Going to a ground here somewhere. We'll just go to the battery in this case. This is all plastic around here. And just my trusty little red incandescent test light, which by the way, I found for you guys. This was actually made by Craftsman, but the one I found, exact same light, made by OTC. So you guys have been asking me about my light. Look in the description right below, right here. I'll put a link for this light. It's like 20 bucks from JB Tools. All right, so the test light test is just simply giving the spark somewhere to go. Okay, crank that for me, Ed. Okay, as you can see, we have spark. So the next test is going to be injection pulse. And what I want to do for this one is I want to disconnect my test light from battery negative and go to battery positive. Let's make sure that the light lights. Okay, so I have a good connection. We'll go to the fuel injector, and one of these two wires should pulse when we crank it. Just touching on the terminal. And go ahead and crank that for me, Ed. Okay. That one did not do anything. And crank it again. Okay. As you can see, guys, we have injection pulse. Let me zoom in on that to make sure you guys could see it. Okay, crank it again. Okay. All right, so we're not done. One more thing we want to do is make sure that we have power on the other wire. So I'm going to take my test light back to ground. Test my test light on positive. It lights, have a good ground. Is the key on, Ed? Yeah. On Fords, with just the key on should be enough. There's your injector feed. Let's make sure the feed is staying there, cranking. Crank it again. Okay. All right. Okay, so next step on this vehicle, given that we have spark and injection pulse, is let's see if we have fuel pressure. And the nice thing about this system is they use a fuel pressure sensor on the fuel rail. This is an electronic returnless system, so I'll be able to read fuel pressure right off the scan tool. Let's look at it. Okay, fuel rail pressure is right there. We have 42.7 PSI. Pete, can you crank this for me real quick? So let's watch our fuel pressure. Now there is a possibility here that the fuel pressure sensor is wrong, and this is not an actual pressure, but this is suggesting, okay, our battery's dying, I need to get a pressure, or I need, yeah. Turn the key back on, Pete. Okay, I have a battery charger on here now. We have 43, 44 PSI showing. Crank it over, Pete. Okay, good. And during the crank there, we jumped up to 53 PSI. And so, guys, what that means is we have everything we need for this vehicle to be starting and running. What do you think? Where do you want to go next? What are some options for what we have going on here? This is a junkyard engine. We could have, well, I'll let you guys think about it for a minute. We have spark, we have fuel, we have injection pulse, we have fuel pressure, at least according to the scan tool. I'm pretty comfortable with that. I don't see any reason why we need to check fuel pressure manually at this point. So my question to you is, why is this vehicle not starting? Think of a few things. I'll give you a minute. Some things that I've run into in the past would be a plugged exhaust. Believe it or not, you can have a restricted exhaust that makes a vehicle not even try to start. I had the earliest vehicle I remember, it was a Ford. It was like a Ford Tempo, and the vehicle wouldn't start. And I was on that car for hours. I was, maybe 5 years in the field working for Pep Boys. Had a plugged exhaust. I had another one, it was a Jaguar, same thing. Vehicle would not even try to start with a plugged exhaust. So plugged exhaust is on our list. Another one, given that this is a salvage yard engine, we could literally have 8 stuck or 6 stuck closed fuel injectors. And that can happen when the fuel sits there for a period of a year or two, and then it varnishes up and it literally freezes them shut. So 6 stuck closed fuel injectors, unlikely, but it could be that. Another one would be that our fuel rail pressure sensor is reading incorrectly and that we actually have no fuel pressure. I don't think it's that. One more is fuel volatility. This vehicle, how long is this vehicle sitting? A year. Sat for a year. I mean, the sticker's 9 of 15, but how long did it sit with the blown engine? Do we know? So the car sat for a while, at least a year, and so we have old fuel in the tank. Now, the thing about the fuel in the tank, it being old, is the vehicle should at least try to start, and it's not even doing that. So that is not really an option, I don't think. And then maybe one more, which would be a timing chain issue. We could have a timing issue where we're not firing in the correct order at all and keeping the vehicle from running. I don't think it's a timing issue though. We have no fault codes. Possibly. I've seen them, Pete, where you can have a chain off and it does no backfiring at all just because the cam and crank relationship's off. So it's not like if it was an old school carbureted engine, they would still fire and run, but some of the fuel injection systems, if that cam and crank is not right, the computer throws the timing way off and it has no idea where to fire it. So I've seen that. I don't think that's the case here. I'm going after the injectors being stuck shut next, and the test I'm going to do is I'm going to use my timer tool. Let me show it to you. You guys have seen it. This bad boy, made by OTC. And again, you guys have asked me where I got this, and I didn't have an answer for you, but I found it. And again, in the description of this video is this timer tool, and again, it's JB Tools that sells this. So pretty cool that they've partnered with me. Appreciate that. Thank you, JB. And if you guys want this tool, again, you'll find it in the description. But what I'm gonna do, I have to stop saying that. What I'm going to do, sorry for my international audience here, I say things like that a lot and it doesn't help you guys, especially you guys that don't speak English as your first language. And I know who you are and I thank you. I really do. You guys are awesome. To speak 2 languages and learn from me It's pretty sweet. But anyway, here's a little side note, a tip for you guys. Where I live here in Pennsylvania, we use some slang words. One would be gonna, which would be going to. Another one that I need to break a habit of is when I say I'm going to. So I am going to, so shorten that, I'm going to, and this is horrible, but I say gonna. No wonder you guys from Australia, some of you can't listen to me. There was a comment from one of you, probably not on this channel, but you said, and I remember it sticks with me. You said, that guy's smart, but I can't listen to that damn Yank. So you called me a Yank. And that's probably why. I can understand that. When I say things like gonna for I'm going to, I need to stop that, and I get it. I'll try. I'll work on it. All right, anyway, back to this. What I want to do is I want to take that injector and fire it manually while I'm watching the fuel pressure on the scan tool. It should drop. If that injector's stuck closed, it's not going to do anything. That's one way. Another way is we could actually crank it for a while and just smell the tailpipe. See if we have a raw fuel smell. So if you didn't have this tool, then you could do that. Another method, I'm not recommending this though, is you take jumper wires, power and ground, and just touch real quick on the injector. You can do that for this scenario because all we're worried about is, does the injector flow any fuel at all? That's all we're worried about. I'm not worried about doing a balance test on all the injectors. I just want to fire one. There's some warnings with that. We don't want to do that on all fuel injectors. Peak and hold fuel injectors, you could actually damage the injector by doing that. This, however, is a saturated switch injector, and we'd be okay doing that. For those of you that haven't watched my lectures on this, so you might be thinking, what's peak and hold, what's saturated switch, what's Danner talking about? I have those here. They're on this channel, and it would be section 17, my chapter 17 from my book, the playlist on fuel injector design. So 16 is fuel pressure and delivery, 17 is injector designs, 18 is, oh shoot, can't remember if it's 17 or 18. Anyway, I'll put a link for peak and hold, saturated switch. That playlist, I'll put it in here too for you guys. Let's do the test. Enough talking. Let's see if we have flow from these injectors. All right, the style of fuel injector is different. The connector is different on this design than what the tool comes with. But when I had this tool originally, it came with a set of jumper leads that go with this, and I don't have them anymore, so I'm using jumper wires. So just going to my battery positive and negative with my tool, and we'll adapt to this. Need a couple of T-pins. So this part is not ideal because I don't have that adapter, but it will work just fine. Back probing my own tool. Don't want to spread the terminals even on my tool. As far as polarity, it does not matter. With fuel injectors, they will fire with either polarity. So you can mix your powers and grounds up. I'm going right to the injector. Computer's not involved at all. And I'll hit the button on here. And what we want to do is we want to watch our pressure gauge at the same time. So let me focus you on the scan tool. Let's make sure these leads don't touch anything. All right, for any of you Snap-on users out there, this might be beneficial for this part. What I want to do is rescale this, and I want to do it manually. So we hit the wrench icon on the graph, turn auto scale off, and then I want to, we'll change our pressures here. We'll make the max 75 and the minimum 0. Hit save. And what that did is allow me to see the fuel pressure graph better. So when I hit this button, we should see that drop. I have the key on, but that's just for the scan tool. We don't really need the key on for the fuel injector. The tool does all of it for you. As far as what I pick, here we'll do a 50 pulse, 10 millisecond. That's my preference, I don't know. I just like to see the injector fire multiple times. So hitting the button. See the light, see that light blink on and off? Watch it again. No change at all. One more time. So what that means is either A, my connections are bad, or B, we made the right call. These injectors are stuck shut. So let me check my connections. Let's just make sure that we're doing what we should be doing to this fuel injector. Those are good. I need to be 100% on this. So what I'll do is I am going to back probe my own tool with my test light. And then hit the button. Watch the gauge here. Watch the line. Okay, that one pulsed. And this one, yeah, that's my feed. Okay, so that's the power feed, it's there. And then, so power goes in on that pin and then is coming out on this pin. So I'm absolutely making connection, okay? And yeah, stuck, closed fuel injectors. All right, now the question is, let's do it one more time, watch. Question is can I unstick this injector by tapping on it? That's what I'm gonna try to do. Now the only thing, guys, about tapping on this is I have a really good chance of knocking my leads off. But what I'm going to do is on the body itself is smack on this injector while I'm exercising the timer tool. I'm not having success. These are plastic injectors too. You're gonna have to pull these apart. I just don't want to knock all my stuff off. Yeah, it worked. Oh, it's awesome. That's one. So I just made that injector fire, and what happens with this varnish buildup is once you get that injector firing, it will clean itself. It should. As far as a product goes, an in-tank cleaner would be recommended here. I know BG makes some really good stuff. I've also read that Techron, made by Chevron, is a good additive for the tank. There's all kinds of stuff, but some kind of cleaner would absolutely be recommended here. Let me try it again. You see our pressure dropped on here? Let's go. If I full screen that, will you guys be able to see that better? Yeah. Ready? A little delay in drop in pressure there, but I definitely had a click here. I'll let you listen to it too. I'll move my mic to it. We're now clicking. All right, I fired that one more times than I should have. But right now, when I try to crank this, we should at least have one cylinder that's kicking in. And I might be able to smack on the front three to get this engine running. Let's try it, man. Let's get rid of our tool. So how about that? I mean, isn't that cool that we have 6 stuck, closed fuel injectors? That's awesome. All right, while he's cranking this, guys, I'm gonna try beating on these other injectors. Whenever you're ready. All right, hold on. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. All right, hold on. See if I can get to some of these back ones. Go ahead. We may have to change these. Go ahead.
Oh yeah.
All right, try it. Go ahead. Come on, stay running. Go ahead. Come on, stay running, stay running. What's that?
How much gas on that whole gas and that fuel row? Came in from the junkyard car. Just gonna gas on.
Oh yeah, it's, well, we're dealing with old fuel for sure. It's running now, but barely. I'm having some difficulty here, for sure. I am winning. We're probably gonna have to change all of these. See, now is the point where I wish I could be live with you to see what you guys want me to do next. I don't feel there's a need to go any further. We have the other injectors that came out of this. That's what needs to be done. I have a feeling maybe some of you would like to see me exercise these other injectors and do a balance test. Here's the problem with that. Really can't get to the back ones. I was using a screwdriver to get underneath the intake manifold. So I could do the front three, but okay, I'll do the front three for you guys, and then that's it. We're putting a fuel rail in this and we'll be done, okay? Okay, middle cylinder. You guys watch the fuel pressure over there. Oh, gotta connect it to the battery. Hey, that one's firing. I heard it click. There's your pressure drop. We could actually do pressure drops on here too, which is kind of cool. No, I'm not doing it with this. Resetting my min-max scales here, just a little bit of a pain. Just the fact that we had a pressure drop is good enough. Let's do the last one. Yeah, that one fired too. Should be running at least better than what we are. So we may have an issue with some bad gas. I would think at least running off of these front three that it would be running a little bit better than that, maybe not. And then we have an issue of potentially dealing with some old gas too. Let's try to start it again. Unstuck the front injectors by smacking on them.
So they might not need change.
Well, they're going to. You're going to probably have to get rid of this gas that's in this tank to drain the tank, get some fresh gas in there. Can you start that back up for me? Try to keep it running. I'm going to do a quick cylinder drop test. Will it idle now on its own? Nice. Nice. That's what I'm talking about. Make that belt stop squeaking for my peeps. We're not hitting on all the cylinders there, buddy. Definitely not. Let's do a quick RPM drop. I'm guessing it's one of the back three. That one's hitting. That one's not. That one's really not either. That's a good one. Stay running, come on. This one's good. That's a good one. That one's good. That one's not. That one's not. That one is. These two. So what is that? The middle one, 1 and 2. Start smacking on them again. It's just some smoke from putting the engine in, penetrating oil and things like that. Can't really get to it. There's smoke everywhere. Yeah, you definitely want to run some cleaner in this, Pete. And it's the back two, 1 and 2. You may end up having to change them.
I do it, right.
I mean, at least you know where you're going with this. My suggestion would be to get these out of here. If you're going in there, because those back two, I can't get them to free up. And if you're in there, just change the whole rail and be done with it. And I would still run some in-tank cleaner as well and get rid of that fuel if it's old. You know, I can't really tell by the smell. Use your judgment, talk to the customer, see what he says as far as when that fuel was put in there last. Well, that was worth going a little bit further for you guys. You got to see the car run, saw the cylinder drop test, a little bonus stuff there. You guys have seen that a bunch of times though. And I just told Pete that what he needs to do is he needs to pull this intake off and change the rail. We'll just do the whole thing. And then also we need to worry about how long that gasoline has been in there. So pretty cool though that you can have stuck closed injectors. You know, I guess maybe with some coaxing and some in-tank cleaner, maybe you could get this thing running right, but no reason to when we have a rail there, and this intake isn't hard to take off. So that's the plan and that's the method or path that we're going. So I hope you guys like that one. And I want to add one more piece, and this may not be relevant to someone a year from now, but it will be to you guys. The upload that will be released this Wednesday. I moved my ScannerDanner Premium releases to Wednesday because I'm doing my RV on Monday, and then I'm doing the regular Friday videos. So I want to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So SD Premium will be Wednesday. That's the plan. And I have the part 2 of my basic ignition one done, and that was the plan for the release. But the problem was, it was like 40 more minutes. So the part 1 was an hour and 17 minutes maybe. And for you guys that don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put the links for the description. The links will be in the description of this video for the ones I'm referring to. But I just shot a basic ignition part 1, and part 2 is to be released Wednesday. Part 2 was about 40 minutes long before I did the editing, and now it's down to 17 minutes. And so honestly, part 2 should have just been combined with part 1. And I'm going to upload part 2, and I am also going to upload this one for you guys at the same time. I know you wait for these videos, you pay for these videos, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys more than you know. And so I want to give you this one too. This will come up at the same time. I'll have this done for Wednesday, I hope. Yeah, so again, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. I'll catch you guys next time.